Let's make a parallel with Roderick and Madeline Usher in the short story The Fall of the House of Usher. At the beginning of part 2, you can read that Roderick's illness is, I quote, a constitutional and family evil. What if this family evil was the genetic disease porphyria? This illness is more likely to occur in inbred noble or royal families and is linked to incest. The Ushers live in a family castle and are obviously upper class, noble people. Later in the story, it's written that, I quote, his eyes were tortured by even a faint light. Let me remind you that pain in sunlight is one of the symptoms of porphyria, hence the legend of vampires. Roderick, who is very pale, seems to live in the dark, isolated from the world, and is very agitated. On top of that, earlier in the story, the narrator implies there has been marriage in the Usher family between relatives. I quote, I had learned too the very remarkable fact that the stem of the Usher race, all time honoured as it was, had put forth, at no period, any enduring branch. In other words, that the entire family lay in the direct line of descent and had always, with very trifling and very temporary variation, so lain. So we can wonder about the relationship between Roderick and his twin sister Madeline. Indeed, the narrator describes Madeline as her brother's tenderly beloved sister, as his sole companion for years. Roderick and his twin sister seem to be very close, maybe too close. The bond they share may be ambiguous. What is the family evil mentioned in the text was incest? What if Roderick's and Madeline's strange illnesses stemmed from their inbred genes? What if the fungus covering the house walls symbolized incest and moral decay in the Usher family? And the fall of the house is a metaphor for the end of the family line, Roderick and Madeline being the two last members of the Usher family. To conclude, let's focus on Madeline's illness. According to Roderick, she suffers from a settled apathy, a partly cataleptic character. So, she seems to suffer from catalepsy, a condition that causes muscle rigidity and loss of consciousness for several hours. People suffering from catalepsy can't move for several hours. Catalepsy can be linked to schizophrenia, a psychological disorder, but also to PTS, which stands for post-traumatic syndrome. In other words, Madeline's condition may have been caused by a psychological shock, such as incest. And her brother's agitation may be due to his feeling of guilt. Well, now you have something to think about. Of course, this is just an interpretation of the story. And there are many others. The narrator might be an opium addict, so an unreliable narrator. And so he may have imagined the whole story. Roderick may be too an opium addict, and in the story he is also compared to a drunkard, so he is quite unreliable too. He may even have tried to bury his sister alive. Or Madeline might be a ghost haunting the castle. Anyway, think about the main topics in this story. And try not to be too depressed. Bye. See you soon. Take care.